Once upon a time, in a small village lying peacefully at the foot of a misty mountain range, there lived a young man named David. David was famous throughout the village not for his diligence or any special talent, but for his laziness, to the point that no one could match him. While other villagers worked hard in the fields or the workshops, David lay lazily under the shade of a banyan tree at the village entrance, closing his eyes and daydreaming about faraway things. But David's life changed completely in just one day. That day, an old monk, with a wise but simple appearance, happened to pass by the village. Seeing David lying under the tree, the monk stopped, his eyes full of observation. He approached and gently asked, "Young man, do you want to do something great in your life?" David raised his eyes to look at the monk, sneering. "Me? Something great? I don't even want to leave this village, let alone do anything great." The monk smiled gently, his eyes sparkling as if he already knew the answer. "But this is not only great, but also special. I need you to climb to the top of that mountain and bring me back a magical feather that lies on the other side." David sat up, his eyes flashing with curiosity. "The magical feather? What can it do?" "That feather," the monk replied, "is not only a rare object, but also contains the power to help its owner change his life. But to get it, you must overcome yourself." Although he did not believe it at first, curiosity urged David to stand up, deciding for the first time in his life to do something other than take a nap. He began to climb the mountain, where just looking up was overwhelming because of the height. The first steps were easy, but the higher David went, the more exhausted he felt. Sharp rocks cut into the soles of his feet, and his body ached because he had never done heavy work before. At times, David sat down, intending to turn back. "I don't need that feather," he told himself. But then the monk's words echoed in his mind. "That feather will change my life." A strange thought flashed through his mind. "If I give up, I will forever be a lazy person lying under the tree." David gritted his teeth and stood up. He continued walking, step by step, though each step felt like a battle with himself. When he reached the top of the mountain, the view that opened up before him made him choke. The whole world seemed to stretch out at his feet, and for the first time in his life, David felt a deep joy, the joy of trying. But the challenge was not over. David had to go down the other side of the mountain, where there was a cave that was said to hold the magical feather. The way down was even more dangerous, slippery rocks and cliffs. David slipped and fell painfully many times, but each time he got up, determined not to stop. Finally, he reached the cave. In the dim light, the magical feather appeared, light, sparkling like a star. David picked up the feather, feeling like he was holding the whole world in his hands. But as he turned around, looking at the steep path he had to take to return, David felt his heart sink. "How can I return with this feather?" he thought to himself. Standing in the midst of confusion, David suddenly realized this feather was not the gift, but the journey to get it that was most valuable. "If I came here, I can also come back," he said to himself. With that thought, David put the feather in his pocket, gathered all his strength, and began the journey back. When David returned to the village, he was ragged. His limbs were covered in scratches, but his eyes were strangely bright. He handed the feather to the monk. The old monk looked at him and smiled, but instead of accepting the feather, he simply said, "I don't need the feather. What I need you to understand is that the true power is not in the feather, but in yourself. Look, you have done what you once thought was impossible. David was surprised and then woke up. He realized that the magic feather was not the goal, but the journey of overcoming laziness and fear that transformed him into a different person. A person who knows how to try, who knows how to overcome challenges. From that day on, David was no longer the lazy boy of the village. He worked hard, helped people, and inspired those around him about the meaning of effort. David's story spread throughout the village and the region and became a profound reminder. The magic feather is not out there. It is always inside each of us. We just need to have enough courage to step out of our comfort zone and reach for it. The story of the lazy boy and the magical feather has touched millions of hearts on social networks because each of us has had times when we wanted to give up. But once we overcome it, we will see how strong we are. When David stood on the top of the mountain, he realized one thing. The highest mountain he had just climbed was not the cliffs or the precarious path, but the laziness and self-doubt that had imprisoned him for so long. We too, each of us carry within ourselves invisible mountains. That is fear. That is the whisper that you can't. But in reality, your biggest limit is not out there, but is set by yourself. If you are brave enough to overcome the barriers in your mind, you will see how vast your sky is. Remember, the great thing is not conquering the mountain, but realizing that you are stronger than you ever thought. Your biggest limit is set by yourself. Did you know that Beethoven, the genius musician, composed immortal symphonies when he was completely deaf? Imagine a man who lived in a world of silence, yet created melodies that touched the hearts of millions of people for centuries. If Beethoven had believed I can't, the world would never have heard of such timeless pieces as Symphony Number 9. So the question is, what is stopping you from achieving your dreams? Now think about yourself. How many times have you said, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, or even, I'm not worthy? These thoughts are like a small box, trapping you inside, making you think that the world out there is too big and you are too small. But in fact, that box doesn't exist. You built it yourself with your fears and doubts. Let me tell you another story. One day, a baby elephant was tied to a stake with a small rope. As a baby, I struggled, but couldn't get free. Over time, the elephant grew older and stronger, but never tried to break free. Why? Because in its mind, that small rope was forever an insurmountable limit. And you know what? We are just like that elephant, tied by the limits of our imagination. Your biggest limit is not your physical ability or your living conditions, but your thoughts. Henry Ford once said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. Your thoughts are the key to opening or closing the door to opportunity. So, how to break these limits? Don't think big. Start with small steps. Try doing something you always thought you couldn't do. Take a dance class, write a poem, or even just wake up 30 minutes earlier every day. You see, the magic lies not in accomplishing big things, but in making small, incremental changes every day. And now, we want to ask you, what is the string that is holding you back? What is the box that you think you can't get out of? Share it in the comments. Who knows? Just writing it down might start to shatter that box. If you feel these words resonate with you, don't hesitate to share your story or tag someone who needs to hear them. Together, we will break all boundaries and enter a world full of miracles. You know, when David reached the top of the mountain, he no longer thought of the magical feather as his only goal. The moment he stood in the vast sky, looking back at the bumpy road he had just overcome, David suddenly realized that it was each tiring step, each painful fall, and even the moments when he wanted to give up, but still tried to continue, that made him mature. Happiness, it turns out, does not lie in the magical feather, but in the feeling of living fully in every moment, on the journey to reach it. Just like our lives. Have you ever realized that the most beautiful memories are often not the moment you achieve something, but in the days when you try, persevere, and learn to love every step, even though the road is not easy? Happiness is not the bright destination, but the meaningful journey you have gone through. Happiness is not the destination, but the journey. Did you know that Leonardo da Vinci spent more than 4 years to complete the Mona Lisa? But the interesting thing is that he didn't finish it. It was the creative journey, from adjusting each brushstroke to contemplating that mysterious smile hundreds of times. That was his greatest joy. Because happiness, you know, is not in the destination, the perfect painting, but in every moment he immersed himself in the creative process. The same is true of human life. We often obsess over destinations in life. Must get promoted, must buy a house, must achieve ABC goals. But think about it. Was the last time you felt truly happy when you achieved a goal, or when you were taking steps towards it? Perhaps it was when you were diligently learning a new skill, late-night chats with friends while dreaming about the future, or the moment you sat watching the sunlight through the window after a meaningful day of work. Let us tell you a little secret. Happiness is not in the trophy you win, but in every drop of sweat you shed to reach that glory. And the miracle is, if you keep running towards the destination, you will miss the beautiful things that are happening right in front of you. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony." And that harmony can only come in the present, in the steps you are taking, not in where you think you will be. So, how to enjoy the journey? Try to change the way you look at life. Don't just run. Stop for a moment to smell the flowers along the way, to laugh when you make mistakes, and to enjoy the joy in the little things. Every day, ask yourself, what did I do today that makes me proud? Gradually, you will see that the greatest happiness lies in the very ordinary but meaningful moments. Now it's your turn. Have you ever realized that you have missed out on the joys of the journey because you were too busy chasing the destination? And don't forget, your life journey is a masterpiece waiting for you to discover. Thank you for taking the time to listen to our story today. You know, every time we share, we feel a strong connection with you, as if we are walking together on a journey of awakening and healing, step by step, slowly but meaningfully. It is your companionship that is the greatest motivation for us to continue telling stories that bring warmth, faith, and inspiration to live positively. If today's story has touched your heart, don't hesitate to click like to let me know you are here. Please share to spread this inspiration to your loved ones, because who knows, they may also need a gentle reminder that happiness lies in the journey we take. And most importantly, leave in the comments section an inspirational quote that you love. A quote, a thought, or simply your sincere feelings. Because sometimes just a word from you can brighten someone's day. Thank you for being an integral part of this journey.